Hey, what's up everybody? Lawler here. Another Sunday means another Q&A video. We've got your guys' questions from last week and throughout the week of questions that have piled up that we're going to be answering, and they're all over the place this week. So before we get into those, as always, I do urge you guys, if you want this series to continue, make sure you drop your comments down below. Any questions, comments, concerns, things you'd like me to ask about, personal life or otherwise, because there's a lot of those in this video. Drop those in the comments down below. I go back and rifle through all my comments for the past week and try to find some of the best ones. So with that said, let's get into some of these. First question comes from Levi Hayes. Yo, Lawler, loving the work you're putting out. I know doing this every day and maintaining daily uploads is not easy and it takes up a lot of time. Your work is greatly appreciated. Thank you, man. Greatly appreciate the kind words. Been hearing you briefly talking about the NFL for the past couple of weeks. You should consider making an NFL episode every now and then, maybe once a week when the season starts. Unfortunately, and I'm going to make this one and this answer really quick before all of y'all leave, this stream is about Rocket League. So if I start talking about things that aren't Rocket League, a lot of people are going to be like, why the heck is this happening? And unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. Maybe I'll make a secondary YouTube channel in the future and I'll do more stuff that's just like open to everything. But for right now, we're going to stick to Rocket League. So if you want to hear me talk about non-Rocket League related things, come on over to the stream, twitch.tv/Lawler. Stream every day, but Tuesday and Wednesday, I will talk your ear off about the NFL and my favorite team. Next question comes from Christian that says, the other day, my friend and I were talking about the RLCS as an esports business. Some players that play in the 10th to 20th area, I assume in the rankings overall, don't really show significant results, but demand a salary of a few $1,000s. Correct me if I'm wrong. Starting salary is roughly like 3,500, 4,000, depending where you're at. But because they don't really show any results, how in the world is Rocket League a profitable game for esports orgs to invest money into, especially if they don't get any attention? I mean, I know Charlotte Phoenix, for example, but that's about it. I won't be recognizing them as a great esport org like G2. Do I misunderstand that topic in some way? An answer from an experienced perspective would be nice. Thanks for your vids. See you on Twitch. Yeah, this one's an interesting one. Obviously, most esports organizations, when they're involved in esport, operate at a loss. Most organizations do not make money from the esport itself unless there's specific things like franchising where they paid millions of dollars to retain a spot like the Overwatch League or Call of Duty League. And then they have rev sharing options, and there's a bunch of stuff behind the scenes that they do in order to make that money. There's brand associations and deals and stuff like that. Right now, the major way that Rocket League organizations make money from Rocket League is from in-game items, the ability to sell their decals on vehicles. For a lot of organizations, that's not a possibility unless they are a mainstay and stick around for an extended period of time. I can tell you that esports shop should be getting updated here relatively soon for the new season and bringing in the likes of teams like V1 and others, which is awesome to see. But without that, there isn't really a whole lot of ways that they will make money directly from Rocket League, in the sense that we are in-game, game gives us money back. It's not really a thing. Most esports organizations at the beginning of their year, and this changes from team to team, and there's a bunch of different stipulations, associate and allocate X amount of funds to their esports teams every year. If I'm a team that has Rocket League and Valorant and League of Legends and etc., I say, hey, I'm going to allocate this amount of funds to our esports budget every single year as an organization, and each team gets this amount. We don't want to go over that. We might spend a little more if we have to, but primarily, we're going to spend this much on there. And the reason why they're able to spend that money is because of their sponsors. The big names and the big brands that they wear on their clothing. The ones that when you see their name and people go back and look at the organization in the banners on Twitter and everything else, when you support the team or when they do ads or when they run content, those are the things that are plastered all over it, just like a solo person stream, like my streams. I'm sponsored by a company named Omen. If you look in my description down below, it's got stuff by Omen. If you come to my stream, it's got stuff with Omen branding all over it, because they are covering me and paying me in order to represent their branding. And organizations do the exact same thing. Organizations have massive, massive brand deals, because if I'm a team that consistently performs well in the RLCS, those brands are getting that exposure out and they're paying for marketing is pretty much what it is. That's why people pay a lot of money to be consistently in the RLCS. Is because you are, although operating at a loss, paying your players a salary and their coaches and everything else, the money you are getting and recouping because you are at the top dog spot from a brand like G2 or Energy or anything like that. Case in point, look at the General NRG. Every time the General NRG is on broadcast, that is promoting that insurance company, whether anybody likes it or not. And that, to them, is a worthwhile investment. Assuming NRG gets a massive kickback from that, that allows them to then allocate more funds or spend things in certain ways, do content houses for the summer, whatever it may be. So even though some of these smaller brands may not necessarily make a ton of money and are spending a bunch on salary, it is the benefit of getting their name out there, being able to grow to a larger space, being able to secure additional organizations or different brandings that want to partner with them. And that's the benefit of being in the top 10 and the top 20 in a circuit-based league. We are no longer top 8 is RLCS or top 10 is RLCS, and then the bottom is RLRS. This is all one encompassing thing. Any team has the opportunity to bump in to those top 8 final bracket spots, which gives a lot of enticement for a lot of smaller organizations. To them, that is a worthwhile investment to pay a team in hopes that they do get their name and their branding and stuff put on the main broadcast. So that's kind of the best way to explain it, and there's a bunch of different aspects to it. If you want more details, Chris, you're in the stream all the time. Ask away. Or drop it in the comments down below and we can answer it next week. Next question comes from Brandon and says, the more I play Rocket League, the more I appreciate the entire pro scene. So my question is, which current pro would make the best Rocket League coach once they retire, assuming they want to? I think many of us believe that Farah is probably the go-to. There is certain players that when you sit and watch them compete, especially in live events and you get to see their comms going, you can see certain players that are extremely vocal in comparison to others. Arguably, I think Farah pretty much coaches that team as they play. He's absolutely incredible. But hands down, if you ask me, I think it'd probably be Farah. Next question says, what is the best transfer made this Rocket League offseason? That's tough to answer because we haven't seen the results. Ultimately, the way I look at it is any teams that are struggling to be consistently in the top 5, top 6, making changes and then being able to move forward with that, I think is pretty big. I think Carmine Corp bringing in Astral, I think is a phenomenal addition, assuming the results go as the way I assume they will. I look at True Neutral making the massive change over to North America. Although the result may not be what they want, it is the opportunity and the ability to compete against the best of the best and get better as a team. Again, it's a really tough question to answer. I personally think the Astral to Carbon Corp is probably one of my top ones. But I will be doing a full video, 2 separate ones actually. One video in the future is going to be all the roster changes summarized very quickly with this team went here, this player went here, this is what happened. And then I'll do another video following that up with my thoughts and opinions on those teams. It'll be a 2-part thing covering all the RLCS 11 offseason roster changes and stuff. So things are starting to get solidified pretty quick here, so you can expect that video in like the next week or 2. Next question comes from Jeremy C. In tight, high stress, high intensity games, what aspect of the game is the most important to focus on? This varies on every single team. If you guys didn't get the chance, I did a talk with Gregan just yesterday. We talk about coaching, their involvement, everything else. Ton of details in there about how he handles things from team to team in different scenarios. And the big thing you should pick up from it is the fact that every team is different. Every player, every scenario is not going to be one-to-one. You'll gain experiences from coaching different teams and players and be able to use that experience to the next team. But every team, what they need to focus on in high intensity, high stress moments is going to be different. Some teams are better under that mental pressure. Some people actually perform better in those scenarios, but they may, because they are focusing so hard, communicate less. Maybe you need to tell them to communicate more. Maybe they get tilted easier because it's a big deal. Like there's a lot of different small nuances. Everybody's a little bit different, but for most people I talk to, they talk a lot about making sure that the guys stay at a base level. They don't want to go too high or too low. It's good to celebrate and be excited about the big moments, but when you've got that many endorphins rushing through your brain and all of a sudden you go from this crazy overtime win and then you get scored on immediately, that contrast of endorphin rush is just awful and can put you in a really negative space. So making sure that you stay consistent throughout the entire game, both not only in your mentality but also your playstyle, is really important. Next question comes from Benjo Banjo. Cloud9 wants back in the scene and back at the top. They should just buy a high out profile. No, they shouldn't. Let me, before I shut down your answer, let me read the whole thing. So he says that if Cloud9 wants to come back in the scene, which a lot of big organizations like TSM, etc., have stated, if we're going to come back in the scene, we want to pick up a team that is going to win. And he's saying that why don't they just bring up a high profile player, an up and comer, a really good player like Daniel or etc. And the reason why is because we've never seen them play in the RLCS. We know they're very talented as an individual, but just because someone's absolutely cracked mechanically, Forky, doesn't mean they're going to have any success in the RLCS. There's a lot of different factors that go into being a competitive team. Ranked is one thing, but playing at a professional level against teams that practice and scrim together continuously over and over and over again is a different beast. It is not the same. And even though this player may be an up-and-comer and a really high prospect, building a team around that player is not necessarily always going to be something that works out. It is better to take 2 veteran talent that have been around for a while, plug in new talent, and expect things to happen. Case in point, you look at G2 and what happened with Drees. 2 veteran talent in Chicago and JNabs, who we know have been able to perform and have competed at the high level towards the top for numerous years. Plugging in a new player into a system that we know works is going to do a lot better than being like, hey, you're really good, but you've never played against this, never been exposed to this. Let's see how it goes. We'll build a team around you. Not a good idea. Cloud9's going to take the tried and true, the tested, the teams that actually have proof as compared to some up-and-comer that probably know could flop right away. Unlikely, but still super risky. I'm going to take the team that has notoriously shown me good results 10 out of 10 times. Last but not least on the questions, we got Yogi Beat saying, is calling the players a third or defensive player kind of outdated? I only started watching Rocket League about a year ago, but it seems like the matches are too small for anyone to be ever one type of player. It goes both ways. Obviously, if you've only been watching for about a year, there's a lot of context you're missing out on the words of Rocket League. The third man, second man, first man is not necessarily about a specific play style anymore. It has evolved over the years. In my opinion, at least, I refer to those people as the player in rotation. And that can interchange to any individual player. If I am sitting there and I'm talking about the third man, I'm just talking about the third man in rotation. I'm not talking about the guy who necessarily plays defense a bunch. I'm just talking about the guy who's furthest back. It's not his chance to go for the ball. He also may be on the left side of the field while the play develops, and he's got to determine if he needs to move up onto offense and become the second man, or if he needs to rotate back and become the third man again. It varies completely. So the terminology and the lingo has evolved over the years, in my opinion. I can understand why it's a little confusing, but I do agree that the defensive player is not necessarily a thing as much. There is still players that are more defensive than offensive, but the game has evolved and adapted over the years to where the reason why I don't do tier lists for pro players on an individual level is because it's a team-based game more than it's ever been. Everybody is super important to getting involved in every single play. Everybody needs to play offense. Everybody needs to play defense. Everybody needs to pass and deny boost. It is a team effort through and through. You do have certain players that are more mechanically flashy and are known for being a little bit more ball hoggy, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Those are kind of the guys that you know are built different or cracked, as the kids say. But it is more so the fact that when I look at certain players and their distinctive play styles, which a lot of you have been asking about a distinctive play styles type of video, which I'll probably do here soon. That one's going to take a lot of editing, but there is certain players that instinctively have a certain type of style of play. Defensive is one of those. Offense is one of those. Teams that play more so in the midfield, facilitate, may not be as good mechanically, but has a much better understanding of situational awareness. Those different things change. So it's not that we are typecasting it specifically on a certain person. It's just an easier way to articulate and have an understanding of this guy plays a little bit more defensive. He's still really good on offense. The best example I can give off the top of my head is like Torment. Torment for a long time was known as a brick wall on defense, but he has put a lot of effort in the past year into playing offense, hitting flip resets, crazy reads off the backboard. He can do it all. That's going to wrap it up for your 19th Q&A Sunday. If you guys have any additional questions, comments, concerns, or things you'd like me to answer in next week's video, drop those in the comments down below. Links to everything that I'm talking about, along with all my social medias down below as well. If you guys enjoyed this content, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, turn on notifications. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.